Hello everybody, it is I, Hidden Flame, and we are back for another episode of the Final Fantasy Timeline. Before I begin tonight, guys, I need to let you all know that I am in need of two types of people. If you are able and willing, I am willing to pay people to do thumbnails for me. And I am looking for someone to teach me some advanced editing tips. Again, it would be a paying thing. If you know someone who can help with both of these, please send them my way. If it is you, please send me a message in the comments below. So, without further ado, let us talk about Ivalice. For those of you who do not know anything about Ivalice, it is a world that revolves around 7 different games. Those are currently on the screen right now. These games are Final Fantasy XII, 12-2 or Revenant Wings, Tactics, Tactics Advanced, Tactics Advanced 2, Vagrant Story, which is not technically a Final Fantasy game, and yes, Final Fantasy XIV, which you are seeing right now in the background. So first off, let's get the Final Fantasy XIV plug out of the way. So first off, in Final Fantasy XIV, you can come across a raid called Return to Ivalice. Yoshi P, the creator of Final Fantasy XIV, brought in the Ivalice creator, the one who invented the stories of Ivalice, Yasumi Masuno. The raid has you join up with Ramza, Alma, Fran from Final Fantasy XII, Montblanc, who appears in all of the games, and has you go through various areas of the games. The first one is Rabanastar. In this raid, you, the Warrior of Light, heads to the decimated capital city of Dalmasca. Here, your team is looking for Genomus Sen Lexintel. Upon rescuing Genomus, the Warrior of Light and Genomus, with the help of Alma and Ramza, climb aboard the Prima Vista, home to the Majestic Theater Company, where they learn about the Zodiac Brave story and the history of Dalmasca and its regions. The next part of the raid takes you to the Redarana Lighthouse, where you track down Baganim, who was mentioned in 12, to gather the aetherite that he stole. The third and final part of the raid, the one that you were seeing in the background, comes from Orbone Monastery. Here, the team joins up with Montblanc and Fran in hopes to save Ramza Bas Lexintel and stop Ultima, the High Seraph. Along the way, the Hero of Light finds 3 allies that have transformed themselves into otherly beings to test the Warrior of Light and their allies in hopes that they are strong enough to save Ramza and defeat Ultima. These allies are Mustadio, Argus, and we'll just call him Sid. Upon defeating these 3, the Warrior of Light enters the Crystalline Jail, or Gale, however you want to pronounce it, where they do battle with Ultima and save Ramza. That is really all there is to the 14 connection into the Ivalice franchise. But it is there, and it takes place after the Zodiac Brave story, which means it would take place after Tactics, or War of the Lions. Okay, now before I get to this next part, I am going to put a link in the description below so you guys can follow along or read at your own leisure. But the Ivalice timeline is already complete, and it is long. So please bear with me as I try to pronounce names that should not exist in the English language. Many thousands of years ago, during a time where the gods worked upon the world of Ivalice, they created themselves 24 scions based off the zodiac constellations, 12 of them representing the light side and 12 of them representing the dark side. In ancient texts, there are some who believe that there is a 13th scion. Each one of these scions was given an important task, but for some reason, the dark scions rose against the gods and were bound to the world, hence only half appear as espers in Final Fantasy XII. Before Ivalice was created, there existed two tribes of warring gods, the Fabar and the Danon. The war lasted for 1,000 years until the prophet Matoya predicted the death of the Danon god king Zebaim by the hands of his most trusted general. Zebaim feared General Anis to be the death of him and imprisoned him and his followers into the darkest of labyrinths. Anis called upon the death god Heth to free him in exchange for his own life. Freed along with his followers, Anis sought revenge. Now called Anis the Holy, he and his followers appeared thousands of years later before the Fabar and helped battle the Danon. The Fabar god Ryaka was so intrigued with the strength of his vengeance that he swore an oath to fight alongside him and his men. The battles raged on for countless millennia until Anis finally confronted Zebaim and defeated him. While Ryaka sought the head of Zebaim, Anis wished the Danon god king pay for all his misdeeds and immortalize Zebaim's body, transforming it into the great land named Ivalice. Anis becomes Anis the Shining, and he and his followers withdrew into the heavens, watching as man lived and thrived upon Zebaim's eternal body. Thousands of years before the Galtcan Alliance was established, the Akira ruled over Ivalice. While man was starting to thrive, the Akira built imposing structures, such as the Pharos at the Redornia Cataract. But for unknown reasons, the Akira withdrew into hiding in the city of Jeruvigan, thus causing mass confusion in the current age. Some people believe the Akira left because of the 1,000-year war, that it was incited by the 12 espers, who were led by the corrupt holy seraph Ultima. With the espers defeated, and the Akira wanting to ensure that the espers didn't rebel again, bound them into glyphs and banished them into the darkest reaches within Ivalice. During this time, a group called the Angel was led by a man named Felthanos. During his rule, he took a virile wife and had children who he would name Felvira, named after him. He revolted against the Akura and took his people to Lemires, using the Orolith to lock Lemurus away in mist, essentially evading the Akura while trapping himself and his people inside. Before sealing away him and his people, he left treasures for his Vera children in the form of Orosite and a giant airship, hoping they would reach him in Lumeras someday. In the airship houses a piece of his own anima, giving it a degree of autonomy. There came a point in Ivalice when it was covered in ice. Many creatures, like the crocodile, lost most of their population due to the colder temperatures, having to struggle to survive, while others, such as the coral, were forced to adapt in order to survive, while many other land-based species were killed off entirely. In the earliest recording of a specific year, circa 1294, before the Valendian calendar, the light of Kiltia was founded in Ordalia by a prophet of the same name, with Mount Baramase at its center. The group was a dualistic faith that worshipped a polytheistic pantheon led by Farum the Father. In the first year of the old Valendian calendar, Ivalice was at war. The Akura, fearing Ivalice would be scarred further, gave the Giraffe a large piece of nethicite, a weapon to set everything straight. Being unable to use the nethicite, the Akura were angered at the Giraffe and their incompetence. But learning of King Wraithwall's victory over the Esper Baelis, they were amazed enough to gift the nethicite to him along with the Sword of Kings. He took 3 shards off of the mother lode of nethicite, known as the Sun Crest, and gave them to the empires of Arcadia and Rosaria, and thus became known as the Dynast King and the founder of the Galtcan Alliance. Upon his death, King Wraithwall was buried with the Dawn Shard, and his tomb was guarded by an Esper that he had defeated in life, Bielis. The Dusk Shard went to the kingdom of Dalmasco, while the Midnight Shard went to the kingdom of Nebradia. Our first game connection comes from Final Fantasy Tactics Advance 2. There is a place called the Ruins of Delgantua. It is described as dating back to the Galtian era. This is further evidenced by the ancient stone architecture that compose its rooms and its halls. Our second connection comes from Vagrant story. During this time, there was a dancer priestess named Mullenkamp, who was a practitioner of the Kiltia, who amassed a following, created many magical grimoires, and founded the city of Liamonde. She had a blood sin tattoo on her back that was passed down through her family upon death and serves as a key to the Liamonde. Our third connection is pretty much the entire game of Final Fantasy XII. In the year 706, the empires of Rosaria and Arcadia were at war. A truce was signed, but the son of Emperor Garamas Solidor, Vayne, assassinated his father and took over the empire. He had hoped to start a war with Rosaria and become Ivalice's new Dynast king, as he was being led by a rogue Akuria, Vagrant, who wished to shatter the control its kind had over Ivalice. Vayne was stopped and killed by Princess Ashe of the Kingdom of Dalmasca, along with the sky pirates Balthier and Fran, the street urchin Van and his friend Penello, and a Dalmascan knight captain, Bosch von Ronsenberg. Ashe had been the Akurian's chosen, but opted to destroy the Sun Crest instead of carving a new nethicite from it. A year later, the Pervama of Lumeris was revealed to Ivalice along with the mysterious Angeal race. This sparked a treasure hunting spree among sky pirates that a maddened Felthanos attempted to exploit. The party who stopped Vayne Salador, along with some new friends, also defeated Felthanos and restored peace to Ivalice. As I was mentioning at the beginning of this video, I did mention that Final Fantasy XIV comes after the Zodiac Brave story. But there was an event that happened before Tactics that makes a small plot hole. And here it is. In circa 800, there was a great catastrophic event that hit Ivalice, wiping out many races, including the Mughals. Man started referring to the previous era as the Golden Era and rebuilt the world from the ground up. The Cataclysm itself was a disaster that ruined the kingdoms and killed many beings of Ivalice, though the exact nature is unknown. It is also unknown when it took place and how long it endured, though it occurred less than 12,000 years prior to the events of Tactics. I bring this up regarding the events of Final Fantasy XIV, because in 14 it starts with the 7th Umbral Calamity, meaning 7 times before the world has been destroyed and rebuilt. So, as like I said at the beginning, 14 takes place after Tactics, because this calamity, or this cataclysm, was the first calamity of the chain of events that leads to 14. But again, that is my personal opinion. Back to the event that happened. In this age where airships and robots were commonplace, Farism became the dominant religion of the Holy Edoran Empire. A man called Ajora, at the age of 20, started to preach about coming of paradise. His influence incited unrest among the forest priests, and Ajora was caught and hanged by the Empire, after which an earthquake wiped out Eudora and sunk Molden into the sea. Some took this as a divine sign and started praising Ajora as a child of the gods. Though like all stories, over the next few decades, Ajora's tale would become twisted to valorize him. The Church of Galbados was founded by Ajora's disciples, with Saint Ajora as its cynosure. Farism faded, with the Church of Galbados becoming the main religion. Presumably, Germanique wrote his scriptures around this time, describing Ajora in less than favorable light. The next connection we have is pretty much the entire Tactics storyline. In circa 2000, Ivalice was once again at war between two men seeking the throne. In reality, the war itself was a means for a greater evil. The Espers, now calling themselves the Lakavi, wanted to return to rule Ivalice and possess people to use them to do their bidding. It turned out Ajora had been possessed by the Lakavi's leader, Ultima, who was then trapped in Ajora's body when he died. Using the War of the Lions, the new leader of the Lakavi, Hashmal, hoped to revive her. The Lakavi amassed an abundance of bloodshed to revive Ajora, Ultima's last host, but a young man called Ramza stopped them. While Ramza became labeled as a heretic, his old friend Delita went down in history as the man who ended the war. The only one who knew the truth, Orin Durai, was executed by the Church of Galbados as a heretic. Several decades on, Orion's descendant, Arazlam Durai, discovered his writings and decided to bring the truth to light. While not historically relevant, Luso Clemens appeared during this time period, but how he got there is unknown. He may have used the powers of his Grimoire of the Rift to return to Ivalice in a different era once he was freed from his imprisonment. Also, Balthier, from 12, also appeared in this era, claiming to have been brought to Ivalice's future by the Cache of Galbados. It can be speculated that during his time as a sky pirate, Balthier found a magical artifact that transported him through time. This is further supported by his statement at the end of Final Fantasy XII of going after the Cache of Galbados. Back in Vagrant's story, Molcamp's followers created a cult after her, and as time passed, a man called Saint Ochus began prohibiting the use of magics. The influence of the priesthood increased, and the followers of Molcamp were hunted down in the Inquisition. The prosperous city of Lea Monde was struck by a great earthquake, turning it into a concentration of dark energy and lost souls. During the same time as the War of the Lions, risk-breaker Ashley Riot of Valdania entered Lea Monde to stop Sidney Lastero, a Molcamp cult leader, with an unknown objective. Ashley discovered the real threat was Romero Goldenstern, who wanted the power of the Grand Grimoire. Stripping Sidney of his power, he revealed the entire city was the Grimoire. Ashley stopped Romero and in turn was granted the dark powers of Lea Monde. Ashley became the Vagrant, eternally saving lost souls who had become the undead. Out of all the Ivalice games, it is unclear if Saint Ivalice from Final Fantasy Tactic Advance is the same Ivalice as seen in other games. It is possible the name merely alludes to it. If Saint Ivalice is to be taken to belong to the same world, it depicts a world several centuries into the future where magic has vanished and replaced by technology. In a small town, a young boy called Mute Randall buys an ancient book, the Grand Grimoire. Leafing through it with his friends, Marsh and Ritz, along with Marsh's little brother Doan, the book creates an Ivalice following Mute's designs, who in turn is inspired by a Final Fantasy game and the Grimoire's illustrations. Marsh eventually reverts the world to normal, knowing it isn't healthy to live in a dream world. 10 to 20 years later, a young boy called Luso finds the Grand Grimoire. But unlike Mute's experience, this time the Grand Grimoire sends Luso back in time to the Golden Era. It is possible this is not the same grimoire Marsh used, as in Final Fantasy Tactics Advance 2, Grimoire of the Rift, the book is referred to as the Grimoire of the Rift. Alternatively, it is possible that the presence of Final Fantasy Tactics Advanced in Ivalice itself is a retcon, as material related to Tactic Advance noted the existence of a civilization that was destroyed by Noah's flood. So guys, that is how the timeline goes. I did not write it. I added a few things regarding Final Fantasy 14. But other than that, this is how the world of Ivalice has evolved over the years. Is it canonically accurate? I don't know. But this is the story and history and lore of Tactics as it sits right now. So I want to thank you guys for giving me feedback on my last video, because I was terrible at it. I know this one still is a bit boring because it's mainly a lot of talking, but I hope the video in the background does help alleviate any frustrations and boredom, and the music maybe, hopefully that's better for you guys. But this is the best I can do, and I am really sorry about everything in my last video, but hopefully this one's better, and I hope you guys will give me more feedback. So with that in mind, thank you guys for watching. Hopefully I will have the next video up soon. As I said, I want to try to get these once a month, but with a change of jobs and depression and trying to get things just right for you guys, I am doing what I can to make it right. So hopefully you guys will enjoy. You will pass this to your friends, like, share, subscribe, the whole 9 yards, and I will see you guys next time. Until then, have a good one, guys, and I'll hope to see you soon.